Now, after a long flight back from America, this is probably the last thing that Brendan Rodgers wanted to come home to. And it is the news that a team is ready to make an offer for a Celtic midfield player, and it is not Matt O'Reilly. It is Rio Hatate. Yes, I spoke about last week about a nightmare scenario at Celtic. And the nightmare scenario that I envisaged was the fact that Matt O'Reilly was to be sold for 25 million. An offer then comes in for Kyogo. Maybe I got it wrong. Celtic have said that Kyogo's not for sale. He is the only striker we have. But Rio Hatate, when he turns up and he's in the mood, is the driving force in our midfield sometimes. And the nightmare scenario that we could lose Rio Hatate to Leicester and we could lose Matt O'Reilly this transfer window. That's the shock news this morning. It was reported late last night that it was an exclusive by the Mail Online that Leicester City have poised a move for Celtic star Hatate. So Leicester City are weighing up a big money offer for the Japanese midfielder Rio Hatate. They'll know that it will cost less than the 25 million wanted for Matt O'Reilly. They know that it will cost less than the 25 million. They're thinking, maybe not go for the 25 million player. Let's go for the player that's actually a little bit better than him, and it will cost a little bit less money. They look as if they're getting ready to put in an offer. Where does Celtic go? What does Celtic do? Does Celtic rebuff the offer? Can Celtic rebuff a big offer for one of our players this summer? We don't have to sell. We know this. We're not in a position where we've got someone that can take Hatate's place, that's for sure. The Paulo Bernardo deal still isn't done. Celtic are trying to negotiate his 20,000 pounds a week wages that he's on at Benfica. And they're trying to get him less wages with more appearance fee stuff that will make it up to 20,000 if he plays more games. Absolutely typical by Celtic, pissing about, and it has yet put the team in jeopardy. Yes, I say it's put the team in jeopardy because if we lose two players this early on in the season, everything that has been planned in the preseason has gone out the window. Every plan that Brendan Rodgers has made over preseason about tactical changes has gone out the window. It's all gone. It's you then have to start from scratch with two brand new midfield players and the driving force of the team. Can Celtic afford that? Can Celtic move on from this? Or will Celtic have to sell both these players? Because you know what the board is like. They'll just say, show me the money. Show me the money. And then they'll go out and they'll buy a player for around about 2 or 3 million and expect Brendan Rodgers to produce absolutely gold dust with that kind of money. And the fact that Russian side Zenit St. Petersburg put in a cheeky offer for Hatate earlier this month, it was knocked straight out the window. They didn't even enter negotiation talks, obviously because they don't want to sell to Russia, don't want to siphon off Russian cash, and there is embargoes against Russian teams in that anyway. But the fact that if they do put in an offer for Hatate, he is contracted until 2028. Can you just see Rio Hatate and the one and only Matt O'Reilly leaving the Celtic this summer? That would be absolutely devastating for the team. The people upstairs need to answer questions to Brendan Rodgers. They need to answer questions on why they haven't got the players in quicker. They need to answer this to the fans as well, because you've got to remember the fans were told to stump up their money for this season, before the season even ended last season. We were all asked to pump up money, another 600 odd pounds or whatever you pay. I mean, I know in the corporate they pay up to 2,000-3,000, and we were all asked to put out our money before the season even ended. And as a goodwill gesture, fans do it. Celtic have now brought out a new home strip, away strip, and a Christmas jumper strip. And as well as lots of other merchandise that they've all brought out, training tops, etc., tracksuit tops, new Adidas collection. It is just all about fleecing the fans, fleecing the working man. And what have we had in return? Inwards investment, £1 million. We sold our only second recognised striker for 4.5 million. Made a profit on him. We've sold Haksabanovic. We're getting rid of something of the deadwood. We're going to get rid of some of the young players. Now, there is players also that are wanted that are wanted. Lagerbielke is wanted. He can leave Celtic straight away. Stephen Welsh is wanted. There has been an offer for Stephen Welsh. This team could be decimated with only 7 days, less than 7 days to go before the start of the season. What are Celtic playing at? We know that we need to trim the squad, but for goodness sake, we should have had players in way before now. And I did say that this type of thing could happen. And it looks as if it might actually come to fruition. Tell me your thoughts about it in the comments section, Celtic fans, this morning, about the fact that Rio Hatate is a wanted man, Matt O'Reilly is a wanted man, Stephen Welsh is a wanted man, and Gustav Lagerbielke is a wanted man also. Where does that leave Celtic this morning if bids come in for all 4 of those players this week? Now, talking about Gustav Lagerbielke, Brendan Rodgers has been speaking about Gustav, the £3 million capture for Helsingborg just only 12 months ago. Yes, and he was told that he was to find another club, and he found another club in January this year. He was told he could leave, and then we'll know what happened. Cameron Carter-Vickers gets injured, and that's it. The deal, and it was a loan with the obligation to buy. It was a loan with obligation to buy. But Brendan Rodgers says, look, Gust has played fantastically well in training. He's trained hard. He's got his head down. He's shown terrific attitude. He didn't get much game time last season. He just got his head down. He had the chance to go out on loan with the option to buy in January, but we needed to keep him due to injuries. It's very hard. He worked very hard over pre-season. We'll see what happens. You see the players are happy and working well, but players want to play. If they can't get a game time here with us, they may have to look elsewhere. At this moment, Brendan Rodgers says he's working very hard and he's asked, whatever he's asked to do, he does. It's his job at the end of the day. And Brendan's been very sort of politically correct there. I mean, the fact that he doesn't fancy him as a player. It's a big week for Celtic. It's a big week. It is Flag Day week. It is the day that we're recognised for being champions of last season. It's the day that fans and fireworks go off in Celtic Park, and it's not the Green Brigade that set off the fireworks. Yes, it's the PLC board. The PLC board will press the button and set off the fireworks inside Celtic Park to remember the triumphs of last season. And yes, and winning the league is all important this season as we are going for 55. Yes, and there's probably 55 reasons that we could sit and talk about this morning that the board are a bunch of fucking half-wits because they've let us into this situation again. And I've tried to be as, and people said, calm down, there's a lot of way to go. But I did say last week on one of the lives, there is a nightmare scenario around the corner. And that nightmare scenario this morning could be the fact that even if we do lose Gustav Lagerbielke, fair enough. But we spent $3 million on him. You want to recruit for that. We just give Stephen Welsh a 5-year contract. Why give him a 5-year contract if he's then going to be pumped out the door this summer? Rio Hatate, some people say that Rio Hatate never turns up a lot of the games and he's lazy, but if an offer comes in for him and Matt O'Reilly, that's the nucleus of your midfield has just been taken out of Celtic. And with Paulo Bernardo deal not done yet, will Celtic go out and spend the 20 grand a week necessary to get that deal done? Brendan Rodgers said that he would have liked to have the players in before the tour to America. It never happened. There's a lot that Brendan Rodgers has said over the last couple of months that hasn't come to fruition, and the manager will be deeply disappointed behind the closed doors. The fact that the men in charge have not managed to get the players in. Brendan Rodgers must feel really unlucky as a Celtic manager because, let's face it, Ange Postecoglou was called the lucky manager. Yes, he was called the lucky manager by Ian Beale. He was called the lucky manager because he had a depth of squad that was really good. Ange Postecoglou also get players in before players were sold. He would get a player in the window before. He would buy a player in the Christmas, and then you knew that somebody was getting sold in the summer. It was just the way that Ange worked. He was always one step ahead. He always knew that there was going to be bids came in. We've not done that this summer. We know that there's players going to be sold, and it seems that we've went backwards. We went backwards, and the people in charge are the same people that have been in charge for a long time upstairs. And whether we like it or not, it does feel like we've went backwards. We're not the forward-thinking club that we were 3 seasons ago when Ange Postecoglou walked through the door. We're not the forward-thinking club that got players in with a view to that player maybe taking over for someone else, because we don't have that. If you look at the depth of the squad just now, we're trying to get rid of Gustav, we're trying to get rid of other players, And it's just not acceptable as far as I'm concerned. It's not good enough. The club has stalled once again. It is going through a period, and I said this last summer, and people shouted at me. Celtic do this often, and they have done over the last 20 years. They go through a period of managed decline where they reduce the wage bill but manage to retain the squad size. And this is one of these second summers in a row that we've reduced the wage bill. We are reducing the wage bill. And with that, there's a big pot of cash. Now, this Monday morning, it's a fucking miserable morning. It's cloudy. Don't know what it's like with you, but it's fucking miserable here. And that Celtic news this morning has just made it even worse. We've got an airport run to do in around about half an hour. Anyway, I'd say try and be all excited and happy this morning, but I think if you want to go and take your frustration out on the board, please do online and let them know by no certain means that us as fans are not happy with the current situation that the board have gotten us into. There's only one person that's to blame in this, and it is the Nicholson and the finance director. Brendan Rodgers would have gave them a list of players, and he said this. He said, we had a list of targets months before the end of the season. Months before the end of the season. We're less than a week away before the first game of the season. And as it stands just now, we are a weaker squad than we were last season. We want to be champions. We want to win the treble this year. We want to make sure that we knock them off their perch. And yes, we can probably do it with the team and the squad that we have. But it gives us a fear for Europe, let's be honest. We haven't improved for Europe. We haven't improved at all. Maybe the defensive setup means that we won't get as many tankings in Europe this year. But is it acceptable for the club to just admit that, look, Europe isn't important for us? Holding our own in Europe is. Holding your head high in Europe is. Making sure that we're a laughing stock in Europe is. The one great team that won what is now the Champions League in 1967 must look at this current Celtic team and Celtic board and think about where the fuck's the ambition? And where is that ambition today? It's sitting in the bank. And that's the sad fact about it. The ambition is sitting in the bank.